I think if there's one swing thought that you could watch the players on the PGA Tour and apply it to them, you'd often see the same swing thought throughout their game, particularly with driver, particularly on the tee. And it's this concept of low and slow. We see so many of the world's best players, they stand up to the golf ball, they're going to hit this thing 300 yards straight down the middle like we all wish that we could. But the first movement away from the ball is low and slow. And then as the club builds up to the top, then the power and the violence and the aggression through the golf ball and the distance on the golf ball ensues. But the golf swing does not start off in that fashion. As we address the golf ball now, I've got my driver teed up nice and high, I've got my stance nice and wide, I've got my ball position well forwards. And having the ball position well forwards really encourages that low takeaway, because we can almost imagine that the ball is on the front half of the loop. So therefore, as I start to come back down through the loop there, it is low to the ground. I'm almost dragging the club for the first part of my backswing. If I had the ball in my center of my stance, the first part of that movement of the club would be upwards, it would move off the floor. But by having it up at the front of my stance, the first part of my takeaway is pretty low to the ground. I'm almost dragging the club away, so it's low to the ground here. Then as I start to move it further back, it lifts a little bit further. But that's why the takeaway is low, particularly more so with your longer clubs with your driver. Now, the slow element of this really encourages my body to do majority of the work and not my hands. If we were to set up to the ball again, we could focus on the fact that if I wanted to move this club away really quickly, my hands would be the thing that would do that. I can move my wrist really fast. But I don't want that in a golf swing. I want this low takeaway, I want this slow take, I want my body to be involved. So my shoulders do the turning, and therefore that is a slower action. It would be quite difficult to move my shoulders quickly, easier to move my hands quickly. So low to the ground, use the shoulders for the slow bit, that creates the nice wide turn. So what I'd encourage you to do next time you're at the driving range is try and make some backswings that almost feel like they're at half the speed. So really slow on the way back, really low on the way back. So we'll do one here which is very much just a drill. So where the ball flight goes is almost irrelevant to this, but it's going to be low and slow on the takeaway. There, low, slow, and then hit. And you might feel you can actually hit the ball just as far and just as hard as your normal shots. Because you're low and slow doesn't mean you're necessarily losing power. You might, as you saw with that one, might not get the club face back to square because your timing and tempo has changed and that one drifted out to the right a little bit. But my low and slow takeaway is a good feeling to have if I get on the golf course, I get too tight, too anxious, too much under pressure, and I start to feel my golf swing quickening up. Now that might be happening over the course of a few holes. Then I can implement the low and slow takeaway. I can slow my swing down, I can create a nice rhythm to my swing, and that should help me get things back on track. So next time you're at the driving range, practice your low and slow takeaway, particularly with your longer clubs, and then implement that swing thought when you're on the golf course, particularly when you feel yourself getting quick and anxious and too uptight. Slow everything down, low and slow in the takeaway, and that should help improve your driver swing thoughts.